Hello, my loves, and welcome back to my channel. I am so grateful and honored that you are here. I'm going to try to record this super quickly because I am working on the schedule of 2 toddlers. I'm watching 2 toddlers now, including my own. It's a long story. Tune in to this episode of the podcast if you're interested. If you're new here, welcome. I have such a hodgepodge on this channel. It's really just all things I love. I had an Italy travel series. I feel like a lot of you are here from that. I talk about connecting to your intuition, or I call it your internal guidance. I've had yoga flows, meditations, but today I'm going to talk about the books that I've been reading in this season. I love recapping this with all of you. It's just fun for me to reflect back on the books that I've been reading. In this year, I've read more books at this point than I have in an entire year. I have read 15 books this year. My goal is 25, so I am on track to meet that goal. I'm very proud of myself. My intention was to read more than I'm on my phone, and there's really no way to measure that, or maybe there is. I just haven't gotten to like the qualitative or quantitative data of that yet, but I feel like I've been reading a lot more. I have been reading a lot more. So let's go over some of the books I've been reading this season. I have quite the list. We'll go through them really quickly, and I'd love to hear what you are reading, any recommendations that you have based on what I'm reading, which is a hodgepodge. Surprise, surprise, I'm a hodgepodge of a person. I've got parenting books, I've got fiction books, I've got self-help, I guess you could call it that category. I've got spiritual books, I've got romantasy, all of it. The book I'm going to start with first is a book I finished on my Italy trip, and that is Messages from the Masters, Tapping into the Power of Love by Dr. Brian L. Weiss. This is my first book that I've read of his, but it's all about past life regressions. I recently found Seed of the Soul, which is by a different author that I'm going to be reading in the fall. So excited to read that. I love learning about past life regressions and the idea of past lives. I totally believe in that, and it's just interesting to see what comes through. A lot of the people that get into past life regressions are these academic doctors that study medicine or psychology, or maybe they're psychiatrists or whatever it may be. They start off in the very like pragmatic, practical field and then end up in past life regressions because they'll be working with their clients, and through like hypnosis or whatever modality they're using, they're able to tap into these past lives. And it's just truly fascinating. The messages that come through just make you feel so good, and honestly, it's just such a reassuring feeling to me knowing that there are past lives and that there's so much more to this reality than just this physical life. So if you're interested in past life regressions and all that stuff, highly recommend that book. The next book that I read is the first one in the From Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm sure I'm going to butcher a lot of these names, and I'm sorry. So I'm actually just picked up the 3rd book in that series. I've been renting all of them from the library, which has been really nice. I do enjoy this series. I've heard that people either love or hate it. Now I'm coming off of Akatar. I finished that in early spring. So far, I'm really liking it. I like the storyline. I just feel like it could be a little bit shorter. Like the storyline could be cut down, like maybe in half. But I'm like so far into it now, I want to see it out and see what happens with the story. But the first one, the ending totally took me by surprise. I feel like I'm pretty easy to surprise in books. I don't see things that are coming. But it has quite a big twist at the end, and I read the second one later on, so I'll go ahead and talk about that one now. The second one is called Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. Again, good story. It's got some spice to it. I just feel like we could have cut it down by half. It's like 500 plus pages or something. But I do enjoy the story. I enjoy the characters, and I'm excited to see what happens with them. So I'll keep you posted on book 3 in that series. Now, the next book I read after the first Blood and Ash book was also from the library, and it's called Cosmic Messengers by Elizabeth Peru. I enjoyed this book. It's definitely not my favorite. I feel like it's more of like a beginner level spirituality book, and sometimes I just want to go deeper. But it was really good for like introducing a lot of these topics. So I think I gave it like a 3 or 4 on Goodreads, but you can follow me there if you want to. I would definitely recommend it if you're just like stepping into spirituality and you're interested in that stuff. I didn't totally resonate with everything in the book, but it was a decent read. I'm like so bad at giving bad reviews to books because I'm always just want to be like, you know what, you wrote a book and that's amazing. Like, I never want to cut people down. It just wasn't necessarily my favorite spirituality book, but it's good for beginners. That's all I'm going to say there. Okay, the next book I read, I randomly got at Barnes& & Noble, even though I've heard about it quite a few times, but it was just screaming my name. I picked up this book and 3 other books, but it has to be one of my favorite books now, and that is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Again, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I absolutely loved this book and I devoured it. I think I finished it in less than a week. I loved the story. My dad read it after me and he said it kind of reminded him of A Christmas Carol, which I could definitely see. Even from like the first thing that happens, I would never have guessed that it would have been one of my favorite books because the beginning can be a little bit triggering. So like read the trigger warnings if you need to. But the story is so good, so fascinating. Love this idea of there being a midnight library and being able to like live out other timelines of your life if you were to make different choices. It even connects to quantum physics and science, which is 100% my jam. Go and check out those Alignment Adventure podcast episodes where we talk about quantum physics. I just love this book so much. I think it should be required reading for all humans because what humans do not question like what their life would be like if they would have made this choice or if they would have stayed with this person or taken this job. Like everyone wonders that, and she gets to play that out in this book, and the ending and the lessons that she gets are just so good. So that's all I'm gonna say. Definitely hands down one of my favorite books of all time. Now the next book I read was Enchantment, Awakening Wonder in an Anxious Age by Catherine May. I had heard a lot about her other book called Wintering. I've heard really good things about it. I haven't read that book, so I saw this one along with The Midnight Library, picked it up. I had really high hopes, and it's not that I didn't like it, but it was just very different than I was expecting. It was more of a memoir, and I was expecting more of just like learning more things from her. Instead, it was more of stories from her life and the lessons that she's learned. Now, I did enjoy quite a few of these lessons, some of them not so much. Again, I'm not good at giving bad reviews on here. It just wasn't what I was expecting. So, not that I wouldn't recommend this book, but just maybe look on Goodreads first or just like dig through a few chapters before you jump right in because it may not be what you're expecting either. I saw in a lot of the reviews on Goodreads that this was nothing like her Wintering book. Now, I don't know if that's true. I haven't read that book yet. Maybe I'll read that this winter because I've heard it's really good. But Enchantment just wasn't what I was expecting. Now, another book that I did not finish, and this is pretty rare for me to not finish books, is Sacred Nature by Karen Armstrong. I loved the first few chapters of this book. It was all about being in nature and connecting to nature and how that relates to ancient religions and all the different religions that we have in our world. First of all, I love connecting to nature. Second of all, I love learning about different religions. So I loved the first few chapters, but then she started getting into like specific stories from the Bible and from different religious texts. And I just like couldn't, like my brain couldn't comprehend it. So I think this could be a book that maybe I could read down the line. I feel this way about the book Women Who Run with Wolves. My grandma loved that book and I actually have it on my bookshelf. And I think I'll enjoy it eventually, but just not right now. So I actually did not finish this book. Nothing against this book. I'm sure it has really great information, but my brain just like couldn't comprehend what she was saying. You know, when you just like keep reading the same paragraph over and over again, that was me. And I was like, Lindsay, just put it down. Pick up another book. It's okay. It's okay to not finish books. Another book that I'm currently listening to, which by the way, if you have Spotify and you're the main account holder, you can listen to like so many hours of audiobooks and only certain audiobooks on Spotify. I did not know that. It's called Hunt, Gather, Parent. Loving it so far. I kind of dropped off for a while, like wasn't reading it or listening to it, but now I'm back and I just love the idea of this book so much. Basically, the author is making the point that most of our parenting advice comes from the West and it's like not well researched. Like we just aren't really sharing what the rest of the world is doing, or at least from my perspective, a lot of the parenting advice out there is not connected to what everyone else is doing. And she goes and visits all these different families around the world. Like the one I'm listening to right now is a Mayan family in the Yucatan Peninsula. And it's just fascinating how their families work so cohesively and effectively and it's kind of the opposite of what we're doing as Western parents. So I haven't finished the book yet. It would be interesting to do a recap of all the things I learned from that book. Let me know if you're interested. But highly, highly recommend if you're a parent and you're just looking for an easier, more cohesive way to parent. And I think we all want that as parents. Now, the last 2 books I'm still finishing as well. I told myself in this video I was only going to do books that I'm mostly finished, but here I am. 2 books that I think I will finish by the end of this month. The first one is The Measure by Nikki Erlich. This is very different than any other book I've read. I guess you could kind of say it's more like dystopian science fiction. I guess you could say it as science fiction. Yeah, it is a very interesting concept. So everyone wakes up one day with this box on their door, and inside the box is a string that measures the length of their life. And it's all about how society is adjusting to that, like how people are dealing with knowing when their life is going to end and like the societal impacts. It's very interesting, and I think parallels a lot of the things that we're seeing in our society right now. And I just want to know where the boxes come from. Like, I hope they tell me that by the end. If you read this, please don't ruin it in the comments, or let me know your thoughts without ruining it. But it's just been a really fascinating read. It is a little bit heavier than other books that I'm reading, but I'm still really enjoying it. And then the last book I'm reading this season is Big Magic by Liz Gilbert. Now, I never read Eat, Pray, Love, but I watched the movie and I liked it. It wasn't my favorite, but I felt like it's in the genre that I would like. Anyways, I've heard a lot of good things about this book, and it is definitely living up to the hype. It's all about creativity and how creative ideas come to us and what it's like to live a truly creative life. I think we are all natural creators, and not necessarily in the like artistic musical way. You can be a creator and live a creative life in lots of different ways, and I think it is so beneficial to our soul to tap into that creative power. So definitely highly recommend this book. Even though I'm only about halfway through it, I've been loving it and taking so many notes on my phone. So let me know in the comments, have you read any of these books? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What are some books that you're loving in this season? I'm hoping to put out more videos. I know it's been a while, but life has just been lifing, you know? Like, life has just been lifing over here. We've been busy just like everyone else is. So I so appreciate your time. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Again, leave any comments with anything that you enjoyed from this video. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And I'm sending you all so much love, all the highest vibes, and I will see you in the next video.